This is Live for Love TV. Live for Love TV. Yes, I am.
One step more. One step more. One step more. Until you reach your goals. One step more. Save them soul. One step more. One step more. How good it is to reach the
Live for Love TV. This is Live for Love TV. Live for Love TV.
Hello, welcome back with Live for Love TV. It's the 26th day of the 4th month of the 21st year of the 21st century. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Today we're going to go over a little story, my favorite story that comes out of the Bible. So please don't turn off too quickly. I know some of you are anti-Bible, but listen to the story and let's see where I'm going with this. It's the story of the Good Samaritan. Now, this story, many people know it, but they haven't really looked over it for a long time. So let's listen to what the story actually says. Few men are questioning Jesus about eternal life. And Jesus sits there and he's talking back to them. One man in particular asks him, how can he attain eternal life? Jesus responds by saying to him, you've read the scriptures, haven't you? The man says he has. And Jesus says, what do they say? He says, well, love thy God with thy mind, body, and soul, and love thy neighbor as you love thyself. And Jesus said, you have spoken correctly. The man, being a very intelligent man, a bit more intelligent than the rest in the crowd, then turns to Jesus and says, but who is my neighbor? So Jesus decides to tell him a story, or what we would call a parable. He tells him a parable. And in this parable, he starts by saying that a man was traveling from one place to another, and as he was traveling, some vagabonds set upon him. Modern day, they mugged him, robbed him of his clothes, his shoes, and his money, and gave him a very, very bad beating, and left him for dead. Well, the very first person to come across him was a priest, highly thought of. He looked on the man, saw this condition of the man, and walked on the road on the other side, passing by very quickly. The second person to come across him was a Levite, highly respected, also works in the house of God. This member is separated by Moses back in the day, as a special people amongst the Jews. Also saw the man on the floor and went on the other side of the road and passed him by. But a Samaritan comes along, and the Samaritans were those people, if you don't know, that the Jews didn't respect very highly, as they apparently transgressed some of the Jewish oaths when they were in some captive state. They started to do different things than the average Jew people did. And the rest of the Jews thought, no, these are not real believers. But this Samaritan looked on the man, took pity on the man, picked the man up, looked after him. As the story says, put him on his donkey or his means of transport at the time, took him with him, cleaned him up as best he could, took him with him, then took him to an inn. And in that inn, when he got to the inn, he then told the proprietor of the inn to take care of this man in the best way he can. Feed him, clothe him, give him a place to stay. And he gave the innkeeper as much money as he had. And he said, if it comes to any more money than what I've given you, I'll be passing back in a few days and I'll settle my bill with you. So the Samaritan went about his way. So at the end of this, Jesus turns to the man who asked him the questions and says to him, so which one of them do you think will get eternal life? And the man answers and says, well, obviously the Samaritan, for he took mercy and had pity on him. And Jesus says to him, well, go forth and do likewise. You've spoken correctly. That story is very important to me, because if you know anything about the Levites and the priests and the concept of being in any particular congregation or group, doesn't get you anywhere from what Jesus says. It's your actions that's going to get you somewhere. It's your ability to love God with your mind, body, and soul. It's your ability to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Currently in the world, Wikipedia says 2.52 billion people on the planet right now are Christians in one form or another. 1.3 billion people are Catholics, 900 million are Protestants. The rest are made up of other type of groups, Eastern, Northern, Eastern churches, Northern churches, all different types. But basically, 2.52 billion people, all of who believe they have the absolute truth, all of who believe, often by the case of the group that they're in, that they're going to be going and having eternal life. But if you listen to this story, which is a great story, as I said, my favorite story, it tells you quite categorically that it's the way you act. The Samaritans were seen by the people of their time as non-believers, literally non-believers. They would have been literally called atheists in those days. But Jesus actually singles them out in this story by action. Now we know this is a parable, it's not a literal story, but it's an explanation of what we need to do for our neighbors and for our fellow people around us in order to get what Jesus would say was eternal life. And this story, though very rarely spoken of, is a story I draw strength from. Live for Love TV draws strength from, because the Samaritan showed true love to his fellow neighbor, wherein the priest, who seemed to be right with God, the Levite, who was working in the house of God, did not show love towards his neighbor. So that was why I brought this story up, and that's why we had a quick run through on that story. I hope you enjoyed that. See you back very soon.
People, one step more, one step more, one step more, one step more. Until you reach your goals, one step more.
This is Live for Love TV.